Hello everybody and welcome to the channel. My name is Plami, and in this episode of Plami's Thoughts On, I'm gonna be sharing my thoughts on the 6th episode of the 6th season of Fear the Walking Dead. I believe the name of the episode is Bury Her Next to Jasper's Leg. It's a little bit of a weird name for the episode, but that's fine. Really, I don't really care about the name too much. What I do care about though is that if you end up really enjoying this video, that you would leave a like or subscribe to the channel, or even if you really enjoy it, to go over to Patreon and donate any amount of money, because that would really help with the continuation of my channel. Even though I would do these videos no matter what, if I had more of like a reason or initiative, like getting paid to do so, I would definitely feel more of a reason to do them much more frequently. Because right now in my life I have to worry about what I'm gonna do with my future and how I'm gonna make money, because if this doesn't work out, I have to have a second plan, you know. So if you really enjoy my videos, or you end up enjoying my stories actually, because as I mentioned before, in addition to doing these videos on my channel, I'm also a writer, and I actually have a zombie story that you can check out. It's in the link in the description. It's called Dead Inside. It's actually pretty interesting, I would say. It's basically my take on The Walking Dead in a certain sense, but in the future I will be introducing a little bit of a twist that I actually came up with, and I even considered retconning the story and like redoing the first 4 issues, for lack of a better term, because I really like the twist that I came up with. But I feel like that's gonna be much more interesting if I introduce it into the story in the future. So we'll see how it's gonna go, but I really hope you enjoy that, and I really hope you enjoy my videos enough to do all this. But anyway, getting back to the episode, it was actually a pretty good episode. I might go as far to say that this is my second favorite episode of the season. It's either second or third, but I would say it's probably second, followed by John Dory's episode, then Dwight and Sherry's episode, then episode 2, episode 3, and definitely at the worst place so far it's going to be episode 7. And I really have a lot of stuff to say about that episode, but that's gonna be in a different video. Here we're gonna focus on this episode. And actually, after we were a few episodes into the season already, and I had read what was going to happen in each episode of this season, or this first half of the season, because at that point I knew that each episode was going to focus on a single character. I saw that episode 6 was going to focus on June and maybe Sarah, aka the truck lady. And I honestly wasn't that excited about the episode. Like, even though I saw that the other episodes of the season were actually really good, I wasn't super excited about how good this episode was going to be. So I didn't have my hopes up, if I gotta be honest. And actually mistakenly thought that the episode was going to be about a completely different thing. If you remember, in one of my episode reviews, I think I mentioned about some of the trailer scenes that we've seen, in which one female character is tied down to a table. I thought that was June, and for the first half of the episode I was waiting for that scene to happen. But as we saw in episode 7, that wasn't actually June, that was Alicia. How the fuck did I not tell them apart? I don't know. But that's a mistake that I need to apologize for, or just mention that it was a mistake on my side. So yeah, the episode wasn't about that. I was actually thinking, if you need a reminder, I was actually thinking that maybe Sarah and June were going to meet some kind of a freaky guy who was the one who was embalming the walkers from episode 3. That was my theory, and it's still not wrong, because I think we're still gonna get that guy, judging by the trailer for the second half, but we'll see. I don't know. The only thing we saw for sure in that trailer is that there are more embalmed walkers, which I like. But yeah, I'm getting sidetracked here. So this episode starts off with June and Sarah apparently working like an ambulance in the zombie apocalypse, which is a little bit weird, because how the hell do they get people to call them or whatever? I didn't really understand whether the guy that they tried to help in the beginning of the episode was part of Virginia's communities, or was just a random person that they knew or something. I don't know. It would make sense for him to be part of Virginia's group, but I don't think so. But apparently they knew him or something like that. I don't know. One thing I want to point out is that I really like how the beginning of the episode was shot with like the truck in the truck. Like there was a lot of really cool sweeping camera shots, which the last time I remember seeing them was in the second episode, which was directed by Lenny James, but I don't think this episode was, so it's definitely not because of him. And it was also in the next episode, episode 7, which I'm gonna talk about and mention it in that video, but that's not about, this video is not about that. So I really like the shots in the beginning. They're really cool and interesting. Like the cinematography in general is so much better this season. I really like in that beginning scene where she's trying to save, June is trying to save the guy who apparently got into shock and died. I love how once he wakes up and pushes her off the medical table, they genuinely fall with like weight. You can feel that they fell from the table. Like it's such a simple detail. I know it's stupid, honestly, but I just love how genuine it felt. Like they fell off the table. Like you could feel the weight and the pain that they might have felt when they fell down the table. It's pretty cool. And yeah, again, I thought that scene was actually the embalming guy attacking June after having captured her, but that's not what happened there. And in the following scene, June feels guilty about not being able to save the guy, which I guess I understand, but I do not really give too much shit about. It's not something that I necessarily care about. And as Makeup Art Presents mentioned in his video, the doctor character feeling guilty about losing patients is such an overdone cliche that I don't care about. Ultimately, I don't have an opinion about this specific detail, but I probably just don't like it. Like, it doesn't bring anything for me to the table. So, in the following scene, we have her meeting John Dory again. I guess she was led into Lawton, but she was still pushed away to do the ambulance thing, because at least that's the impression that I got timeline-wise, because in the previous episode with John Dory, we had Virginia let June come back to John because otherwise she knew that John was going to break away. Which he did by the end of the episode, and I can't wait to talk about that. But it was a little bit confusing there to exactly get it straight in my head. But I assume it's exactly as it's presented timeline-wise. Like episode 4 happened, then June was asked to be an ambulance basically now again, and it's just that they haven't. She hasn't been back to Lawton, maybe, I don't know. So basically they talk about the fact that because of what happened in John's episode with Janice, I think that's what her name was, who ended up being sacrificed or used as a bait to trick everybody in Lawton, thinking that Janice was a danger to the group or whatever, and making people feel safe. He feels guilty about that, and he straight up says that if he has to stay in Lawton, he's not gonna last long, because it's eating him up and corrupting him more and more if he stays there. And it's interesting how at first June doesn't want to leave, but when he says that, it's a little bit of a selfish thing for John to say that she should save him, she should run away with him to save him. I actually did not expect that line, and I really like that line, because at first he says you can't save people by staying in Lawton, but June says that she can, and then he says that you can save me, basically he says. So that's a line that I did not expect to hear from him, and again, it's kind of selfish, but I actually kind of like it. It shows that he has care for himself first and foremost. I don't know, I just feel like the character having more of a backbone is kind of interesting. And she actually agrees to leave, but because of an accident at the oil plant or whatever it's called, they are caught there, so they cannot run away at that moment. So they go to the oil plant, and then we meet Luciana, who says that one of the reservoirs or something has exploded, and Virginia also shows up. Go figure. And they all go in, and apparently it's again the end is the beginning, guys. Those fuckers are apparently everywhere and want to destroy everything. It's kind of weird when you think about it, about how the fuck did they ride that on that reservoir, because there's no ladder, it's in a little bit of a high place, so they cannot paint it standing. So when the fuck did they manage to paint that, and how? It's a detail that has been bothering me since I watched the episode, which was like 2 weeks ago at this point, kind of. But yeah, it's just something that I've thought about a little bit. So as they look around for survivors and try to get the people out and try to figure out what the hell happened there, we see that Wes was injured, and it was kind of cool to see Wes. Like, from the last season, I didn't really watch it, as I mentioned before, but I kind of, I guess, kept with at least some pieces and bits of the episodes. At least I checked out some reaction videos on YouTube, so I have some basic gist of what happened in the season, and I kind of liked Wes last season, so it was cool to see him again. He was definitely also pretty interesting to see in that episode, and Virginia is a huge bitch for torturing him like that. It was kind of funny that they kind of his most well-known trait of his character ended him up in this situation, because if you have watched the last season, you would know that he's a painter, like he loves to paint. And in this episode, Virginia thinks that because he has some painting supplies in his locker or whatever, that he's the one who has written "The end is the beginning" on the reservoir. But it's not him, but that doesn't stop Virginia from torturing him. So right as they are taking Wes into the makeshift ambulance truck thing that June and Sarah have been using, they open the doors, and apparently all the other people that they put into the truck had turned into walkers and eaten each other, so that was a surprise a little bit. And then a bunch of walkers, as usual, teleport out of nowhere and surround everybody. And as June and Virginia are trying to keep them away while the rest get away of the place, shit goes fucking down. Or should I say, it goes up, because all the fucking fuel and the reservoir fucking blows up. And wow, they went all out with that explosion, because that was fucking cool. Like, when was the last time The Walking Dead had such a cool, like, set piece explosion? Like, was it like season 6? Like, I know we had the Battle of, like, Hilltop, or Kingtop, should I say, with the Whispers, but that was way too short. And it was like 5 minutes of the previous episode and like 10 minutes of the... I don't know if it was even 10 minutes of the second episode, and it was way too short. I have a lot of complaints about that episode, and I'm gonna get to it whenever I do review of season 10, but yeah, I'm not a big fan of that. So it's I think it's definitely the first time since season 6 of the main show where an explosion has felt like a quality explosion, like it's felt like it fits and it felt complete and it worked into the story. Like, I just like the explosion, okay? I really like how they did it, and it looked really cool. And there were some aerial shots as well. I think they were mostly CGI, but they still looked fucking awesome, and I really like that. And something that I thought about in this part of the episode is that the situation that Virginia and June are, because they were still in the place when it blew up and they ended up under a bunch of rubble and broken down buildings. The thing that this reminded me of is what happens in the comic with Rick and Negan. I don't know if you've read the comic. Like, even I haven't read the comic. I've just like read the Wikia pages. That's where I know it from. So basically, without spoiling too much, there's one moment in the comic where walkers attack Rick and Negan, and they are forced to stay together in safety in a building. So having June, who, if she had the ability to kill June, or the ability to kill June without the possibility of that harming her friends and family, basically, she would have done it before. So it was kind of cool to see basically the good guy and the villain be stuck in that same situation. It just reminded me of that thing with Rick and Negan, which we already kind of had adapted in like season 8 premiere, I think it was, of the main show. But that's what it reminded me of, and it played out in a really cool way. So while they are under the rubble, Virginia gets attacked by a walker, and surprise, surprise, she actually fucking gets bit. Like, wow, did that fucking shock me. Like, I watched this episode of Fear the Walking Dead and World Beyond completely out of order. I watched the Fear the Walking Dead episode first, then I watched the World Beyond episode only like yesterday. So it feels a little bit disjointed for me, like they don't feel like they've aired at the same time, but they have. And it's kind of cool when you think about it, that both of these episodes, like episode 7 of World Beyond and episode 6 of Fear the Walking Dead, had some really cool moments that I did not expect to fucking see. That was really cool. Like, if I had watched them as they aired, that would have been really cool to see like both of the episodes actually fucking blow my mind and do something surprising, because it is really cool. Because as much as I love The Walking Dead, in some ways like that, it has definitely gone stale. Like, it doesn't really surprise me in many ways, or at least not in good ways. Because the one thing that like surprised me in the season 10 finale, it was two things: how quickly Beta died, which was not a good thing, I would say. I mean, it's kind of how good, how bad. And the fact that Gabriel survived, which again, how good, how bad. I like to see more of the character, but I feel like he should have died there. So it was cool to have both of these shows' episodes actually be fucking good and surprise me with something. So yeah, I did not expect her to get bit, but I definitely expected her to survive, because come on, she's like the main antagonist. And I do make a difference between an antagonist and a villain. For me, an antagonist is a character who is a bad guy, but it's not the necessarily big bad guy, or the worst guy who is supposed to be the big villain or whatever. I definitely consider the end is the beginning guys the villains, while Virginia is just an antagonist for me. I don't know if that's the definition for the words. That's just how I define them. So whatever. So yeah, we have a few actually really cool scenes between June and Virginia, who, again, I did not expect to enjoy June this much in this episode. She was actually really cool, and one of my favorite moments between their interactions in that scene under the broken down house is a line that Virginia mentions a little bit earlier, where she says that you gotta know when to put out sick dogs, or something like that. I'm paraphrasing. And basically, when Virginia, after she's beat, she tries to get a hatchet to hack her arm off. June tells her, when Virginia asks June to help her, June tells to her, you gotta know when to put down sick dogs. And it was so fucking savage to hear that. Like, it was so savage to hear Virginia get her words thrown right back at her. It was really cool. I was so satisfied at that moment. I will still say that at the end, it makes sense why June saved Virginia by cutting her arm off. I don't know if logistically cutting her arm off after like 20 minutes of bickering wouldn't have still allowed the infection to spread throughout Virginia's body, but it makes sense for me. I'm fine with it. Because as we saw in the beginning of the episode, June was feeling bad about not being able to save people, and it was said that June asked Virginia for a hospital that she can actually work from. And for saving her, June gets basically exactly that. So that is kind of cool, I guess. And in that moment where Virginia was saying that she just wants to protect her daughter, I know exactly what the writers were trying to do with that. Like they were basically giving Virginia a pet the dog moment, which, if you don't know what it is, it's basically when you make a bad character do something good to make him appear nicer to the viewers. It's basically the reason why Negan bashed Brandon, I think that was his name, Brandon's head in like season 10 episode 5, to make the viewers like him more, because Brandon was a psycho, and it also showed that Negan had changed. So I don't mind that, but some of the lines that she said, like the fact that she basically says that she was unable to protect Dakota, like that's exactly what it's implied. I wonder what that means for Dakota. When I watched the episode, I thought that meant that maybe Dakota was some kind of psycho or something that we didn't realize, like nobody knew. Especially because of we had already seen some of the teaser with the creepy walkers, like with the walker with the antlers, but that did not turn out to be the case. Although even when I was watching the 7th episode, I thought that maybe that guy in that episode was her dad or something, but he wasn't. So yeah, basically June saves Virginia, which is fine by me, and it definitely, in that moment, it made me feel like Virginia is not that bad. Sure, she's very strict and she doesn't allow people to run away. Like, she'll definitely waste resources to get them back. But you don't really have that much of a reason to run away from her. Like, with Negan, you can see why. Because he enjoyed being the top dog. He enjoyed his followers basically sucking his dick. But Virginia is not like that. Sure, she's strict, but she's not like gloating about it or anything like that. She's just very strict. Hey, I almost forgot actually. In the beginning of the episode, the cold open, I guess you could say, where we get the name of the episode, the character that we have in the beginning looked so much like Sarah at first. But I actually thought it was Sarah when I was watching the opening minutes, I think it was, or the teaser trailer, or whatever it's called. But then when I was watching the episode, tell me, am I the only one who thinks that whoever the actress was looked so much like Madison? Like, something about her face, especially around her jaw, looks so much like Madison with just like prosthetics. I know it's not her because that character ends up shooting themselves in the head, but wow, she looked like Madison, and I just wanted to point it out. And there was another really cool and fun scene in that where Virginia is basically monologuing about some dumb frog or something, and I just love how just completely seriously that character asks Virginia, what the fuck is that supposed to mean? Like, I love how this season has been acknowledging the stupid philosophical talk and how stupid it is. It's so fucking entertaining when they rip and shit on the last 2 seasons basically, and a lot of the stupid things about those 2 seasons. And as much as the writers and the showrunners keep saying that they don't hate how bad season 4 and 5 were, and don't really acknowledge how bad they were, yeah, they definitely acknowledge how bad they are. They wouldn't be ripping at it like that and pretty much like calling it out completely. It's basically as if the Skybound recap, the guy who makes him, I think, is uh, Tony Tondorf or something. It's basically as if he is writing the fucking dialogue for Fear the Walking Dead this season. And in another scene, in that opening scene, Virginia asks that character about the people who keep leaving the end is the beginning writing everywhere, and she asks that person, "Do I look scared?" And I just love how she says to Virginia, "Yeah." Like, I fucking laughed my ass off in that scene. That was fucking hilarious. How completely straight she talked back to her. That was so funny, because I also said yes as I was watching it, because she definitely looked scared. That was really cool. The actress for Virginia is actually pretty good. So yeah, going back to where we were, I also want to mention that there was another scene where it calls out the philosophical talk. When Virginia gets into the place where they're refining the oil, and she sees the writing on the reservoir, which says the end is the beginning. She asks, "Do you know who is our resident philosopher?" Like, I just love that they acknowledge that this is stupid philosophical speak. It's so fucking cool. It's something I wish The Walking Dead does as well. Like, basically acknowledging its tropes. Like, it definitely can get annoying after a while, basically destroying their tropes and acknowledging their tropes and averting their tropes, but it's so fun this season seeing that in Fear the Walking Dead. I love it. So yeah, after the whole debacle in that place, we have June telling John about the fact that she's getting a hospital now, and basically telling him that she doesn't want to run away anymore, which I feel like it broke John's heart in that scene, because I definitely felt like that. Because I get that it's important to her that she wants to save people, but is that more important than her loved one, you know? And they don't even really talk about the fact about what John feels about it. Like, he told her in the beginning what he felt about it, but she didn't really acknowledge him in that scene. So I don't really feel what he did afterwards was selfish or anything like that. In a certain sense, you could say that it's selfish because he cares more about him feeling okay about it, but it's not like he is willingly like leaving June behind when he leaves her at the end of the episode. He's just literally forced to, because if he stays, he might honestly go insane if the episode if what the episode is implying is anything to go by. And I honestly kind of teared up in that scene. It was really beautifully shot, and the music that they were playing was also really, really good. I just love how they set it up that they have to that there is a fork in the road and they're driving, like John is driving right behind the truck, and when they get to the fork in the road, he just splits away, and it's so beautiful. I love it. Apparently that's something that was done in one of the Fast and Furious movies with that guy who died from those movies, Paul Walker, I think his name was. So that's a fun detail, I guess, or not so fun. But yeah, I really like that scene, and I love how heartbroken John was about the fact that he's leaving John behind, but she's just not willing to not help people. Like, she straight up says that she doesn't want to run away, and I understand that, but I feel like she just didn't acknowledge John's feelings and wishes at all in this episode. But still, she was actually a really fun character in this episode, and I enjoyed her surprisingly a lot. She is, I would say, at the same level of enjoyment for me right now as Andrea was. I guess in season 3 you could say, because in season 2 she was fucking annoying. But in season 3 she was actually pretty fine. So she's about at the same level now. But yeah, I don't think I'm missing anything in this episode. Anything else I can't really think of. So yeah, it was a solid episode. I really enjoyed it. Uh, it's another really good episode, and as I said, I think this might be my second favorite episode of this season, or at the very least, I feel like it's the second best written, because it had a bunch of B-list characters. Even for Fear the Walking Dead, it was the B-listers. It was basically June, who is the loved one of John, who I would consider more of a main character than her. Luciana, Sarah, Wes, and Wendell at the end, which I actually was so happy about seeing him, because even though I haven't really watched that much of season 4 and 5, I don't know, seeing the characters and especially Sarah being happy about seeing Wen again, I don't know, it made me happy as well. And I guess that's what's good about TV shows, feeling the emotions even if you haven't necessarily experienced everything with the characters, and then when you experience everything with the characters you feel the emotions even more strongly. But yeah, this episode was basically the B-listers and the C-listers and the D-listers, and it was really good. So I think because of that, it definitely deserves the second spot for the best episode of the season. I don't know if necessarily in terms of rating it would go there exactly, but that's where I would put it personally. And yeah, in terms of ratings, I think at the very least I would give it an 8.4 out of 10, and at most it would be an 8.7 out of 10. I really enjoyed this episode. In terms of rewatchability, like just right now thinking about it, I would say this episode is probably, again, the second most interesting episode to rewatch for me this season. If you are curious about exactly how the rest of the episode go, the first episode with Morgan is the most interesting for sure. Then it's this one. Then it's the episode with Dwight and Sherry. Then it's episode 2. Then then it's episode 4. Then episode 2, and then episode 3, and episode 7, which I can't wait to rip to shreds because it was that bad, or at least parts of it was that bad, is dead last. I, at the very least, hope the rest of the season is not as bad as that episode, but yeah, we'll see. I have some worries for sure. Hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you did, leave a like and subscribe. Also, check out the description to my Twitter if you want to follow me over there, and to my Wattpad where I post my stories, because in addition to doing all these videos on my channel, I'm also a writer. And if you end up enjoying my stories, or you simply enjoy my videos, you can head over to Patreon where you can pledge support and help keep the channel going, help support me so I can keep writing the stories you enjoy. And if you don't want to do it, that's completely fine. You can still help me out in other ways, like liking this video, subscribing, and especially sharing this video with somebody who you think might enjoy it. And I think it's pretty much it for this video, so hopefully I'm gonna see you in the next one. Bye!